Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be talking about the issues that I have with Season 3 of Legend of Vox Machina. So, two things that I want to make very clear before I get into this. First and foremost, spoilers for Season 3 of Legend of Vox Machina. And technically spoilers for all of Legend of Vox Machina, Campaign 1, Campaign 3. Just spoilers throughout this, so if you aren't caught up with Critical Role in any sense, if you aren't caught up with Legend of Vox Machina, the animated series, I recommend clicking off, because I will be talking some major spoilers in this video. And I need to talk about it because I need to get it off my chest. Because I do have some pretty big issues with this season. That being said, the other thing that I wanted to make very clear was I still very much love this show. Even though I do have some issues that I will be talking about very shortly, I love this animated show. I love that we're getting this. I very much appreciate that we have it in general. I do love this show. But I can still point out things that I dislike about it and still enjoy it. And that's something I am going to do today. It's much like Star Wars or anything else like that. There are things wrong with it, but I still love it. So if you guys are worried that I, for whatever reason, hate the show or whatever, that is not the case. I absolutely love the Legend of Vox Machina animated show. I just have a few issues with it that I felt like getting off my chest. So we're going to do that. So the first one isn't terribly spoilery, but I still want to say one more time before I get started, spoilers. So the first thing I want to talk about as far as like issues that I have with this season is the lack of Matt Mercer. And that's going to sound weird because he was definitely in this season as a bunch of smaller characters, right? He was Dr. Dranzel. He was also the I think he's like a rogue or a ranger, the Tabaxi that Vex and Vax talk to. So he is around. He is definitely like a bunch of smaller characters in this season, and he is Orthax again in this season. However, if you compare the roles he got this season, which are much smaller roles that don't do a whole heck of a lot until the final episode for Orthax. Every time Orthax is on screen in this season, he plays second fiddle to Anna Ripley, which is fine. I think Anna Ripley's badass in this season, is really cool and a total bitch, but whatever. Orthax playing second fiddle to her makes a lot of sense until the last episode. But if you compare Matt's roles in the first two seasons to season 3, it is super diminished, in my opinion, right? In the first season, he plays, not only does he play Orthax in the first season, but he also plays Silas Briarwood, one of the two main villains of the season. So he has a huge pivotal role in that season. So then, in season 2, he also has a huge pivotal role as being like the final boss of the season. He is Umbrasyl that season. So he plays not only one of the final bosses in season 1, and he plays Orthax, another final boss in that season. So he plays like 2 or 3 like major bosses in that season. And then the next time around in season 2, he is like the threat that took several episodes to take out with nonstop fighting. So realistically, he's had a massive downgrade here where he isn't anyone's like main villain. Yes, Orthax does do stuff in this season, but he's, always second fiddle. He's always someone else's second fiddle. Even with the scenes in like the revival of Percy, he is still not the main focus of it all. Yeah, he's there in the background saying like, he's like going to be under my control, all this stuff. He's mine. He's not yours. You can't take him. He's saying that kind of stuff, but it's overshadowed by Vax sort of sacrificing a lot for her to pick up his brother Percy, right? Like that's the whole thing. It's more about those two. So every time Matt has a role in this season, it's not a main role. And I know that sounds weird, but the thing is, with Critical Role is I watch it every single week. Sometimes I watch multiple episodes a week when I'm looking at stuff for making videos and stuff. And I see the 7 regular players and Matt Mercer, right? That is what you see consistently. Whereas I feel like this season was the first season where he doesn't get that big role in the season. And there was tons of characters where he could have picked up a pivotal role that could play a pivotal role in later seasons. I think Jamasa Ord is a big one. Like, I personally feel like that should have been Matt. And to sort of lean back even further into Legend of Vox Machina, he doesn't play any of his DMPCs. There are 3 DMPCs. One of them is his literal self-insert in the world of Exandria in Allura Vysoren, which would have been weird hearing, Matt's voice come out of that version of Allura, and I get why they didn't do that, so it's understandable there. But then you have Kima. I personally think he could have voiced Kima and have a massive role in that, in that sense. He should have voiced one of his DMPCs. The other one is Sean Gilmore. I understand the issue with that one. I still feel like he should have voiced one of the two of Kima or Sean. And the voice actors that are playing those two characters are great. But Matt should have a main character. He should have a main DMPC or NPC or villain in every season, and he didn't this season, which is sad. And I understand he has mentioned it a handful of times in the past that like he has issues with giving roles to himself, but he needs to do it. And it actually gives me a great amount of fear for the Mighty Nine animated show, because there are a handful of characters that I think of off the top of my head that he needs to voice, because those are important characters, and he is the 8th player at the table, 9th if you include Robbie. He is the 8th player. He is the narrator, and you don't hear narration in the animated show. He needs to have a main voice in the future. So, I don't know. He needs to play Vecna, right? For the next season, the Whispered One, whatever the hell we're going to call him, he needs to be Vecna. That way he is that main entity that I want him to be in the show. He needs that spotlight. As far as the Mighty Nine animated series, there are 4 characters that I think he definitely should be. Ludinus Deleth is a must, because that sets up, when they eventually go to animate Bell's Hells, he can be Ludinus in that series. The next one is the Gentleman. We've already heard him singing as the Gentleman, so I get the feeling that's pretty well locked in. Essek is a must. He needs to play a DMPC character. I do not understand why he's not one in Vox Machina. It bothers me, and I need him to be Essek for Campaign 2 when they eventually go to animate the Mighty Nine. So he needs to be Essek. And the last one is Lucian, the final main villain of the arc, or of Campaign 2. So realistically, he should be those 4. Those are the 4 characters that he should get for the 4 seasons they do of that, because it seems like they're doing 4 seasons for Vox Machina, and I imagine Mighty Nine will get the same treatment. So those will be his 4 characters for the 4 seasons. So that needs to happen. I really do feel like he needs to have a main character every season, because it's cool seeing him being like, it's a nice little neat thing that he has a bunch of NPCs around the world, but he needs to be a main character. It kind of bothers me that he's not that. He's just a character who gets killed off, a character who's there for 30 seconds each time, or something like that, or he plays second fiddle to Anna Ripley. So realistically, I want him to get a bigger role, which is crazy that I have to say it about someone who's running the show. So now that I've moved on from the Matt conversation, I need to talk about the changes they've made that bother me in the story. And I'm going to start kind of small and then move to bigger stuff as we go. So the first one sounds small, but it's Grog not getting the Deck of Many Things. So the issue with Grog not getting the Deck of Many Things, it means that at the end of the season, or at the end of the show, his soul won't be trapped by the card in a different realm. Which means we will never meet Bertrand Bell, which I'm sure a bunch of you just went, oh shit. And it also means we'll never meet Liev Tal, which is a pretty big deal. So realistically, that's all I have to say, because I'm sure most of you already know what that means for the story moving forward. Of course, they could figure out a different way to get his soul trapped. I have no doubt about that. And they could have a different way to introduce Bertrand Bell to us. But the reason Bertrand's death is so impactful in Campaign 3 is because we knew of him beforehand. If he was just some random old dude that Travis was playing, and then he died, and yeah, he was only there for a couple episodes. So realistically, it wouldn't hurt so bad. And I get the feeling that Bertrand Bell would only be there for the first 2 episodes of a Bell's Hells animated show. So realistically, to not have Grog get the card means we don't get introduced to him beforehand, which means the impact of his death will be lessened significantly. It also means that we won't have like too much about Liev Tell, and Liev Tell and Bertrand Bell have a relationship as well. So when we meet her later on down the line in campaign 3, her connection to the Bell's Hells will be nowhere near as strong as far as we understand it to be. So realistically, this is a minor issue that they can easily fix by having Grog just be absorbed anyway. But the Deck of Many Things is really fun, and it sets up other stuff, not only just Bertrand Bell, but it also sets up a different, like, really rich character who shows up in campaign 3 as well. So again, the Deck of Many Things not being introduced is kind of a shame. So now we're moving on to something that greatly upsets me about this season. And it's one of the most emotional moments in campaign 1 that they have just removed from the show. And it really, really just bothers me to my core that they did this. And it makes no sense to me as to why they did this. And that is the fix him moment. In the Legend of Vox Machina animated series, after Grog and Scanlan sort of escape Thordak's lair and they like land on the ground, Scanlan's like out cold, right? He's in a coma now. And Grog picks him up and just quickly goes, can someone fix him? Like, fix him, right? He doesn't say it with like too much rage or intensity or anything like that. But if you compare that to what happened in the actual show, it is a night and day difference, and honestly is one of the most amazing bits of acting in Critical Role, period, from Travis. It might be just like one of the best acting bits in all of Critical Role, but it's definitely one of Travis's highlights. So for me, this being changed is kind of annoying and really upsets me. And I'm going to show the 2 clips. I'm going to show the clip of him, in the animated series, and then contrast that against the one in the actual live play of Critical Role. And I want you to tell me which one's better.
Scanlan? Hey. Wake up! No. Can you fix him?
Damn it!
Please. You gotta fix him.
I'll take off running for Vex.
Okay, as you turn around the corner, Keeman and Allura are rushing up to you now as well. Is he? And you turn the corner, Grog, and you see Vax holding the still body of Scanlan just dangling out of his arms.
No! Fix him! Fix him!
It's Dr. Rocket. You're a child.
Will somebody do something?
We have to take him home.
We have to get him out of here.
Well, we got all these people with magic. You've all got magic spells. You just brought him back. Fix him!
So there they are, the 2 clips. Let me know if you think that the animated one is better than the live play one. I highly doubt many of you are going to be on that wavelength. If you are, I will concede. I will concede this point. But frankly, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think more of you are going to be like, yeah, the live play one was a lot more intense, and there was a different circumstance behind the 2 of them, and I get that. But my next issue could have fixed that. So the way they handled death in the animated series is a lot different than the way that the live play did. And I have no issue with that at all. I think the changes they've made to certain characters dying at certain points were shocking and like really compelling and really interesting, and definitely adds to the story. However, I personally feel that Percy's revival was too late, and the last handful of episodes were sort of out of order, if you will. So for me, I'm going to give the timeline of how I personally would have done it. So, obviously, Anna Ripley kills Percy and they bury him, right? Like, that's the whole thing. They're going to leave him there because Pike can't revive him. That is fine with me. I love that. I think that was very emotional and very impactful. So, for me, the changes start happening after Thordak dies, or kind of before. But I'm going to start with, if it were up to me, after Thordak dies, Scanlan isn't in a coma, and the fix him moment didn't happen quite yet. Keyleth leaves to go on her own path to get her elemental form like she did before. And this time, instead of just Vex and Vax going after Anna Ripley, the remaining members of Vox Machina do. So Grog, Pike, and Scanlan go with her, or go with the 2 of them to deal with her. And I feel like that would have been a lot more interesting, because it would have made Anna Ripley look a lot more intense and badass if she was fighting the 5 of them than just the 2 of them. And yes, they both have vestiges, but the other 3 do as well. So if you have 5 people fighting her, that would have made her look insane. And not to mention, the way they kill her in the live play is the group executes her. Like, the group does together. So realistically, it should have been that way. And yes, Percy is still dead at this moment. But after this, when they get the gun, the group of them goes back and revives Percy because of the feeling that Vax has. I feel like they should have revived him before they went for the Raishan fight. And then they go and do the Raishan fight. You know, I feel like that makes a lot more sense for them to, you know, convene after the revival of Percy, or even Keyleth comes back to help revive Percy. Then they go fight Raishan. And in the fight, Scanlan dies. Scanlan doesn't get put into a coma. He dies. He dies helping his friends, and he never achieves the conversation he wants to with Kaylee. After that, Pike goes and gets Kaylee like she did in the show. They revive him with Kaylee's help, and he gets pissed, which leads to Bard's Lament, which is my next major issue with this show, with this season. Where was Bard's Lament? That is the single most emotional moment for me in Campaign 1. And it's completely removed from the animated show. And I knew it was going to happen. They were setting stuff up to lead towards the Bard's Lament moment, and he didn't do them. Right? The whole like drug thing with the spice, where he he goes up to Kaylee, and before he gets there, like the guy offers him spice. In the animated show, he doesn't take it. In the live play, he actually gets spice from Jarrett, like their guard. So he does get the drugs and the spice, and he starts using it, and he has his little downfall moment where he like starts going spiraling down and believes that his friends don't care about him. They don't do anything for him, right? And then getting Kaylee, which is something he didn't want them to necessarily do. He wanted to be the one to go after Kaylee. That leads to the Bard's Lament moment. But instead, they just don't have the Bard's Lament moment. And I don't understand this. I really don't. And the other thing that sort of is compounded with this is it makes me feel like they're skipping the entire Taryn Darrington story. They're skipping all of it. The characters went their separate ways amicably. They're friends still. They're not angry with Scanlan. Scanlan's not angry with them. They don't hate each other. Like, they're not supposed to hate each other. But, like, Scanlan goes off on his own, and a bunch of them resent that fact. Like, they didn't even get the chance to help him out doing things. And they resent that fact. Then they spend the next little bit of time helping each other deal with stuff. The Rakshasa. They go to Dis to deal with Vax's Rakshasa, which is a thing that they briefly alluded to in this series and never did anything with it. And then they went to Dis to get the plate of armor. So I knew they weren't going to Dis to deal with anything else. So realistically, I knew that section was gone. But they all go, with the exception of Scanlan, to the Water Tribe, to the Water Ashari, to help Keyleth Aramente, and that's where the Kraken fight happens. And that's not happening now. It seems like they've just gone right into the time skip, and then by the end of the time skip, the Vecna stuff is going to start. So realistically, they've taken out an entire arc. Yes, they did that previously. They skipped the Underdark and the Vasselheim arc at the beginning, but that is 100% reasonable to do because of a certain Tiberius Stormwind, which would later, in this season in fact, get a stand-in character to sort of kill off. But realistically, to have this entire arc removed is going to like take away a bunch of really fun moments. I loved it when they went to Dis. Like the party going to Dis and like Terry going, holy shit, this is what these guys do, is great. Them fighting a pit fiend there is great too. Them dealing with the Rakshasa and like permanently killing it off is fun. They meet, I forget her name, but the werewolf or the werebear guest character who comes in. They meet her. I forget her name right now for some random reason. I really enjoy that character though. So it's kind of a shame that that character will never show up. So we're missing a ton of stuff. Obviously, we're missing the Water Ashari stuff, and we're going to be missing the Kraken stuff. We're also going to be missing like the Trickfoot stuff, because there is like a brief section where like Pike's family shows up and they try to like trick her and shit like that. There's some sort of Pike or a Trickfoot curse or something like that, right? So like we're missing that stuff. Also, something that just dawned on me, because we're missing the Trickfoot thing. We're not getting the were basically God's moment. I just realized that. That is something that just dawned on me. We're not going to get that if they skip. If they do the time skip now, we're not getting the most legendary death in Critical Role, aside from Molly Mock. I mean, depends on which one you think is like the more like legendary moment. We're not getting that moment now. Oh my God. This is real-time realization here, guys. I'm shook. But I think I've made my point clear. There is changes that have happened in this season that have affected me as a viewer because I know that we're skipping stuff now. Right? The Bard's Lament is a spiraling staircase that goes down hundreds and hundreds of flights of floors because we're not going to get X amount of moments now. Keyleth dies during the Taryon Darrington arc as a goldfish, and we're not getting it now. I wanted that animated so badly. They have to do it. They have to. I am hoping I'm wrong about all of this, and I'm truly hoping that they don't do the time skip. That they like do a couple weeks where they're off by themselves and then they meet Terry because they need to come together to deal with some sort of threat, and then they meet Terry and he replaces Scanlan for a while. And then we get the we're basically God's moment. I hope that happens. But the realization that I just had is a horrifying one. That we might not be getting it. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, I do want to say I love this show. There are so many great moments of the show. I freaking love this show, right? It's so enjoyable for me. I on Thursdays, I wake up and I go watch it, and then I have my friends come over and we play our D&D game, and then I watch Critical Role, right? Like, my Thursday is D&D centric. So for me, it's awesome. I love this show. It's amazing. It's so much fun. But these issues that I have, I can't ignore because I truly feel like they're affecting. It's like when someone says the books are better, right? I have never agreed with that statement because I don't read books. The Critical Role live play is the book that I've read that I think is better than the animated series. And that I finally understand those people who say the book is better. I get it now. And for any time I've argued against that, I apologize. But the book is better in this moment. So, yeah, I do love the show. Like I mentioned, I have to mention this. But I have my issues. I've listed them off here. I hope you don't hate me for that opinion. I'm curious what you all think. I've definitely seen some people talking and discussing this as well, which is why I want to make this video, because I want this to be the video where people discuss it on. Where people discuss Season 3 or even prior seasons in the past. I very much just want to talk about the Legend of Vox Machina animated series in the comment section. So let me know what you think. I have shared my opinions in this video. So let me know what you think. I will definitely be interacting with this a lot because this is an important video for me. And yeah, I will see you guys on Friday for the video I recorded a week ago that is still not being used. It will be up, I swear. So yeah, that'll be the Friday video, and I'll see you guys then. Peace.